ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। भूतैर्महद्भिर्यैमः पुरोभिरो निर्मायष्येते यदमुषु पुरुषा भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे। श्रीकृष्ण शरणं शरणागतं कथामृतं सततपिबतं भक्तिवेदान्तमार्गपन्थनं सर्वलोक ऋषिदेव जन्न प्रसन्नं सर्वलोक ऋषिदेव जन्न प्रसन्नं। Hare Krishna, dear Prabhus and Matajis, welcome to our morning Srimad Bhagavatam study session. So we are studying Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 18, Mahārāja Parīkṣit cursed by a Brāhmaṇa boy, text number 18, 1:18:18. Nārayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiyayet. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. So the sages of Naimisharanya have just concluded speaking, and now Sut Goswami is speaking. And we have seen that sages of Naimisharanya have taken shelter of Sut Goswami, expressing their eagerness to hear about Mahārāja Parīkṣit, Krishna, Shukadeva Goswami, how the two met and how the two began, and how Srīmad Bhāgavatam came into being spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, and so forth. And in reply to their questions, and also the glorification. So Sutta Goswami is extensively glorified by the sages of Naimisharanya. And the sages of Naimisharanya are bestowing blessings upon Sutta Goswami as well. So how does Sutta Goswami respond? Let's hear. Text number 18. Sutta uvacha aho vayam janma vritodhyasma vriddhanuvityapi viloma jata doshkulyamadhim vidhanoti sigram mahattamanam abhidhana yoga. Translation by Islamic Divine Grace, I.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Sri Sut Goswami said, "O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower births." Would anyone like to read the purport, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I can read.
Yes, Mataji.
Sut Goswami did not take his birth in a Brahmana family. He was born in a family of mixed caste or an uncultured low family. But because of higher association like Sri Shukdev Goswami and the great rishis of Naimisharanya, certainly the disqualification of inferior birth was washed off. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this principle in pursuance of the Vedic usages, and by his transcendental association he elevated many low-born or those disqualified by birth or action to the status of devotional service and established them in the position of acharyas or authorities. He clearly stated that any man, whatever he may be, whether a Brahmana or Shudra by birth, or a householder or mendicant in the order of society, if he is conversant with the science of Krishna, he can be accepted as an acharya or guru, a spiritual master. Sud Goswami learned the science of Krishna from great rishis and authorities like Shukdev and Vyasadev, and he was so qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya eagerly wanted to hear from him the science of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he had the double association of great souls by hearing and preaching. Transcendental science or the science of Krishna has to be learned from the authorities, and when one preaches the science, he becomes still more qualified. So Sud Goswami had both the advantages, and thus undoubtedly he was completely freed from all disqualifications of low birth and mental agonies. This verse definitely proves that Srila Shukdev Goswami did not refuse to teach Sud Goswami about the transcendental science, nor did the sages of Naimisharanya refuse to hear lessons from him because of his inferior birth. This means that thousands of years ago, there was no bar to learning or preaching the transcendental science because of inferior birth. The rigidity of the so-called caste system in Hindu society became prominent within only 100 years ago, 100 years or so, when the number of Dvija Bandhus or disqualified men in the families of higher caste increased. Lord Sri Chaitanya revived the original Vedic system, and he elevated Thakur Haridas to the position of Namacharya, or the authority in preaching the glories of the holy name of the Lord. Although His Holiness Srila Haridas Thakur was pleased to appear in a family of Mohammedans. Such is the power of pure devotees of the Lord. The Ganges water is accepted as pure, and one can become purified after taking a bath in the waters after taking a bath in the waters of the Ganges. But as far as the great devotees of the Lord are concerned, they can purify a degraded soul even by being seen by the lowborn. And what to speak of association? Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to purify the whole atmosphere of the polluted world by sending qualified preachers all over the world. And it remains with the Indians to take up this task scientifically and thus to do the best kind of humanitarian work. The mental disease of the present generation are more acute than bodily diseases. It is quite fit and proper to take up the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world without delay. Mahattamanam Abhidhana also means dictionary of great devotees, or a book full of the words of great devotees. Such a dictionary of the words of great devotees and those of the Lord are in the Vedas and allied literatures, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Let's look at word to word. Such a wonderful paper by Srila Prabhupada. So many pertinent points are mentioned in this verse. Sutta Uvacha, Sutta Goswami said, Aho, how? Vayam, we, Janmabhritaha, promoted in birth. Adya, today, ha, clearly, asma, having become Vriddha Anuvritya, by saving those who are advanced in knowledge. So there's advancement of age and there's advancement of knowledge. So Sudha Goswami qualified in both ways. He was advanced in age and he was also advanced in knowledge. And as far as the birth was concerned, although he was from a lower birth of mixed caste, that is known as here it is given api, although viloma jata, born in a mixed caste, Viloma Jata. At the same time, it is said his birth was Pratiloma. Pratiloma means it was an inferior birth because his father was a Kshatriya and mother was a Brahmana. Brahmana is regarded as the higher caste. So if a Brahmana marries a Brahmani or a Kshatrani or a Vaishya or a Shudrani, then that is regarded as Anuloma, that befitting marriage. But not only Sudha Goswami was mixed caste, he was Pratiloma. He was born out of an inferior combination. Those kulyam, disqualification of birth, adhim, sufferings, vidhunoti, purifies, shikram, very soon. So this word is very significant. Very soon, shigram, without delay. How? Mahatta manam, of those who are great, abhidhana, conversation, yoga, in connection. So basically, coming in contact with pure devotees of the Lord and hearing from them, conversing with them, one can cleanse all disqualifications resulting from lower births or sinful proclivities. So in this purport, Sri Prabhupada extensively mentions that actually being in a lower birth is no disqualification. There is a wonderful verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Krishnadas Kaviraj says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he mentions this fact, Kiba Vipra, meaning that one may be a Brahmana, Kiba Nyasi, one may be a sannyasi, Shudra Kenenai, one may be a Shudra. All these does not matter. Yai Krishna Tattvaveta Sai Guru Hai. One who knows the science of Krishna consciousness is fit to become a spiritual master. No one else otherwise is fit to become a spiritual master. So in this sense, material qualifications do not tantamount to being qualified to receive the mercy of the Lord or to progress on the path of devotional service. For the past 2 days, His Grace Sakirai Prabhu has been giving wonderful lessons on how we can derive our own key performance indicators based on the scriptures, starting with the stages of Ado Shakta and continuing to Mahabhava or Prema. So it is important to introspect. In Sanskrit, is called Mananan, basically meaning where we are in our devotional path, how we are progressing, are we progressing or not, or are we going backwards? And for this stage to come about, one has to become fiercely serious that yes, life's goal means to go back home, back to Godhead, and end this suffering in the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease once and for all. And as far as the birth is concerned, Kalo Sudra Sambhavat, in Kali Yuga, actually everyone is a Sudra because no one comes through a process of proper Garbhadhan Samskara. So everyone is born as a Shudra. But when one comes in contact with the devotee of the Lord, then they can actually get promotion. How is that promotion being made? It's through the process of purification. And this purification comes about simply by coming in touch with realized sadhu. In Chaitanya Charitamrita also it is said that sadhu sangha sarva shastra kai, lava matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hai. That all the scriptures tell this, that simply by associating with sadhu, even for lava means that 1/11th of a second. If one association of sadhu is there, then very quickly one elevates to know the signs of Krishna consciousness. But this is for a person who is humble. And Sutta Goswami is humble and also blessed. We know from the historical account we were discussing in the weekend that Sutta Goswami is the son of Roma Maharshi Sut. So Roma Maharshi, he was the speaker of Srimad Bhāgavatam, and he was speaking actually Krishna Katha when Lord Balram, when he refused to fight in the battle of Mahabharata, he went around the places of pilgrim. And when he came to the bank of Ganges, where Roma Maharshi, Sutta Goswami's father, was doing Krishna Katha. So as soon as Lord Balram came, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone stood up. But Roma Maharshi, he did not stand up. He just sat on the Vyasasana where he was sitting, being puffed up with knowledge of superiority. And Lord Balram, seeing the puffed up nature of Roma Maharshi. Now, Roma Maharshi, it in itself means, Roma means, the hairs standing on the end. Harshi means becomes ecstasy. When Rama Maharshi used to speak Krishna Katha, he was so knowledgeable, and he used to speak in spiritual ecstasy. And what to speak of the audience, even he himself would become ecstatic hearing himself about Krishna Katha. But nonetheless, he did not have the spiritual humility nor the realization that Supreme Personality of Godhead in form of Lord Balram has come here. So I should get up from this esteemed seat and offer my humble obeisances. I remember a few years ago, I saw a YouTube video clip in where Radhesham Prabhu from Pune temple, he's the president there, he one morning came to sit on the Vyasas and to give Srimad Bhagavatam class. He must have been very tired because he sat on the Vyasasana, his head was down, and he started doing, he sang Jai Radha Madhava with his eyes closed, and with his head low, with eyes closed, he started doing the Mangala Charana. And in course of doing the Mangala Charana, he looked up and he opened his eyes, and he saw that right before him, his spiritual master was sitting on a lower seat on the floor, and he himself was on the higher seat. Without even thinking, spontaneously, he seemed to be half asleep, but when he saw his spiritual master, spontaneously, as if there was a shock in his system, he jumped from the Vyasasana, and immediately he laid on the floor doing Dandavat Pranam to his spiritual master, Radhanath Swami. And Radhanath Swami very lovingly and sweetly patted on his back. All the devotees who were sitting there, they started laughing that how Radhesham Prabhu just simply jumped from the Vyasasana and paid obeisances onto his spiritual master. This is the etiquette, actually. I remember a story that in New York, once Srila Prabhupada was about to arrive. So the temple president of the temple there, he had so arranged that all the devotees would go to the airport to receive Srila Prabhupada. But then when Srila Prabhupada comes to the temple, half of those devotees would take a shortcut to the temple, and Srila Prabhupada would be brought a long way, so that those devotees would be in the temple to receive Srila Prabhupada. But it so happened that those devotees from the airport got lost, and Srila Prabhupada arrived in the New York temple by himself, temple president, and the driver. So there was no devotees in the temple to give an elaborate welcome to Srila Prabhupada. So when Srila Prabhupada entered the temple room, it was midday, and the midday arati was going on. And one Mataji alone there was doing arati of Sri Sri Radha Krishna Vigraha. And as soon as she saw Srila Prabhupada, she put the arati paraphernalia down. She came out of the altar, paid her obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, and then she went back into the altar, did the Ajman, and restarted the Arati. And afterwards, when the Arati was over, she, when time of darshan of Srila Prabhupada came, she came to Srila Prabhupada and she asked Srila Prabhupada, what I did coming out of the altar to pay respects to you, was that the right thing, or should I have remained in the altar? And Srila Prabhupada said, no, you did the right thing. There was nothing wrong with it. So Srila Prabhupada is such an acharya, such an elevated, he is the spiritual master of the whole world at present and in future. It is said, na bhuto na bhavishyati. Such a personality in the past has not come, and in future also will not come. That he deserves such respects. And of course, one's surrender to the spiritual master dictates their actions. So there are, anyway, scriptural references which goes both ways. But giving respects to elevated personalities is not only a sign of humility, but it's very, very important for our progress in devotional service. So Balaram, seeing that Maharshi was puffed up in knowledge. Now, this is another thing. If we are puffed up, in our ability to give classes, quote verses, do nice cooking. When we cook, everyone says, wow, wow, very nice, prasadam, Prabhu, Mataji, you have made. In our ability to sing, in our ability to play musical instruments, whatever talent we have got, if we take credit for it, then we have succumbed to the worst part of our personality by pride. And pride comes before fall. We cannot progress in devotional service. And Lord Balaram, he just took a kusha grass, and with the kusha grass, he killed Maharshi. And when all the Brahmanas there were disgusted by this, they pleaded Lord Balaram that now you have to empower someone so that they can speak Krishna Katha and we can hear. So Lord Balaram called for the son of Maharshini, and that son is Sut Goswami, who now is speaking Srimad Bhāgavatam to the rishis of Naimisharanya. And he blessed Sut Goswami. So Sut Goswami, although being from a lower birth, because Maharshana was of Kshatriya birth, and his wife was a Brahmani. So he was of Pratiloma. And Sut Goswami it was a Pratiloma marriage, and Sut Goswami was from a Pratiloma birth. But nonetheless, he was blessed by Lord Balaram, and he became the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he very humbly learned. And in these verses, we see that he is actually accepting that I'm not qualified. But by dint of conversing and associating with pure devotees of the Lord, this qualification has been brought about to him by others. So others are giving respect, but Sut Goswami, he himself thinks, I still don't deserve this respect. This respect is only due to the mercy of other devotees who I have had the privilege of associating with. So similar disposition we also should have, that there is no qualification we have. We see in Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj saying the same thing. I'm the son of a demon, Ugrajate. I'm born of low birth, demoniac birth. And how can I offer prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev? He says in his first prayer to Lord Nrsimhadev that Brahmadaya Suratana Munayocha Siddha, that Brahma and other demigods, Suratana, Munayo, great rishis, Athasiddha, and all perfected beings, Satvaikatanta Gatayo Vachasam Pravahe, in mode of goodness, Satvaikatanta Gataya, they Vachasam Pravahe, praise of praise flow from their lotus mouth. But who am I? Naraditum puragunairadhunapi pipru. I'm born of a lower birth. And kim toshtum arhati same harirukrajate. And being of lower birth, kim toshtum, how can I satisfy you, my Lord? I have no qualifications. And Prahlad Maharaj goes on to disqualify himself. But nonetheless, the important point is that in the sixth verse, he says that although I have all these disqualification, but I will rise above this disqualification, and as far as my intelligence allows, I will humbly try to glorify you, O my Lord. So similarly, in the same mood, we should be also accepting our disqualification. Yes, I have all these qualities which disqualify me, but nonetheless, I will not give my endeavor to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's one point. Second point to understand is that we should not be succumbing, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, about this caste system, that the superiority of Brāhmaṇa class, where Dvijabandhus, the Brāhmana, became polluted in their efforts to maintain their superiority. They introduced a system of Janma and the Vibhagasa, Janma Karma Vibhagasa. But actually, it is Guna Karma Vibhagasa. One's caste is determined by the modes of nature, qualities they have acquired, and their activity, not Janma and Karma. It is Guna and Karma. So we shouldn't succumb to these false propaganda, but actually know that, yes, Krishna Tattva Veta Jai Sai Guru Vai, that one who knows the science of Krishna consciousness is practicing the science of Krishna consciousness as per the standard, those persons should be accepted as righteous. Now, even within ISKCON, we have to be independently thoughtful. Srila Prabhupada used this term, independently thoughtful. That we cannot be blind followers. We have to see, yes, who is following the standards. Just by being a leader doesn't mean that automatically they become qualified. No, the only qualification is Krishna Tattva Vedache. Are they expert in science of Krishna consciousness? And if they are, then they are accepted as leaders. But if they are not, then yes, all respect to you, your position, but we won't be dictated, or we won't be, following that example. Rather, we'll be associating with standard of devotional service that is enjoined in the scriptures, not something that the persons who are attached to positions, power, money, women, that we run after them just because they hold a high position. So this is very important, that we don't be blind. It is condemned in scriptures verily. And Srila Prabhupada himself says in the purports of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, that my scriptures even should be studied scrutinizingly, carefully. And our level of conduct should be based on such discrimination. And if everyone has a similar approach to devotional service, then we can bring about a Satyuga atmosphere within our movement and not allow it to be hijacked by so-called persons who are not expanding the movement, but just sitting in their own places and trying to enjoy Srila Prabhupada's property and ISKCON. Thank you so much. Is there any comments or questions? Thank you so much, Prabhus and Matajis. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.